Our Power Nation on the Road Bourbon and Boulders special is brought to you by RockAuto.com.
Let's check in with Gannon as he's exploring some of the sights and sounds in Kentucky.
Hey guys, welcome back to our extreme off-road adventure, Bourbon and Boulders. And now that we've had a taste of those Kentucky boulders, let's go have a taste of the Kentucky bourbon. And let's start at the historical Castle and Key Distillery. The history of Castle and Key starts right behind me with this giant castle that's over 150 years old. But what's in these walls, that's where we're gonna find the history of some of the best bourbon in America. You can think of Castle and Key as a startup distillery that was 130 years in the making. And now they are painstakingly resurrecting the historic site of the former Old Taylor Distillery. Beginning life along Glens Creek in Millville, Kentucky, the original building was built in 1819, but in 1885, Colonel E.H. Taylor Jr. rebuilt it into this famous castle and it became the prominent distillery in the state. But with the downturn of the whiskey market in the 1950s and 60s, the old steam-powered facility became too costly to operate. Having once produced 1,000 barrels of bourbon a day, the Old Taylor Distillery closed its doors in 1972. When co-founding partner and native Kentuckian Will Arvin first saw the old distillery, it sat dormant for over 40 years, and it was a challenge to just get in the property.
We had machetes, we had sticks, we had walking sticks, flashlights, and I suppose you could have worn a hard hat. It was a total forest, and it's amazing to see what nature does in 40 years' time when nobody's really taking care of anything.
Despite the neglect, he recognized the potential of the site, the buildings, and the distilling equipment. He knew it was going to take a tremendous amount of work, but it is truly now a labor of love that he cherishes every day.
It's not really work, it's just fun. It's a passion, and it's something that we're excited to be a part of and be able to take something that had been smoldering in the ruins for, well, since the 1970s and see it come back to life, because it's really an iconic site for the whole state of Kentucky, if not the whole United States, maybe the world.
One of the craziest things about Castle and Key is the fact these old fermenters from the 1930s were already in place. So when it came time to fire them up and start making bourbon, it was like turning on an old switch. The master distiller at Castle and Key is quite notable herself. Marion Barnes is the first female master distiller in the history of bourbon making. She's combining her passion, talent, chemical engineering degree, and most importantly, her vision to help bring this place back to life. And she finds that by bringing new technology into an old facility, she's actually following in her predecessor's footsteps.
Colonel E.H. Taylor was a man who embraced innovation and loved, new technology. He was the first man in Woodford County to own an automobile. So it just makes sense that all of these new toys and gadgets they were installing, you can run the still from an iPad. He would think that was so cool. So we're running a very historic distillery, one that kind of stopped in its tracks in the boom of the Industrial Revolution. So, steam pumps and steam-powered everything, but, bringing it into the modern era with new pumps, new conveyors, a new computer monitored system that will allow us to check flow rates and temperatures and monitor pressures, and it's a new way of doing it, but still, basic at its core, the way they were doing it 150 years ago.
We know about the castle, but what about the key? Colonel Taylor designed this key-shaped spring house to capture the limestone water that he believed was key to making the best bourbon in Kentucky. Underneath the white peristyle built between 1906 and 1909 is 140,000 gallons of iron-free water. And it's that lack of iron that makes Kentucky bourbon so good. This is Warehouse B, and it began construction back in 1906. One of the coolest things about it is it's not just the longest aging warehouse in the country, it's the longest aging warehouse in the entire world. Rickhouse B measures a whopping 548 feet from gutter to gutter, and is capable of holding about 33,000 barrels. Inside, you will find Frankfort, Kentucky native Gary Tate, Shorty, to everyone at Castle and Key. Shorty not only lovingly manages this warehouse and all the barrels, he's a third-generation worker on these grounds.
My grandfather, he started here in 1951, And my grandmother started here in 1961, and my father and mother both started here in 1978. All my family's been in bourbon their whole life. That's pretty much a family thing.
As of now, there are about 18,000 barrels in the warehouse, every single one of them carefully put into place by Shorty. This more than 100-year-old structure is not only his past, but it's also his future.
Well, it's just a family, you know, it's like a family heirloom to me. I do anything it takes to make it work. That's my goal. I've poured everything I've got into it, and I won't stop. I see it going to the top. We're not going to go backwards now.
Not only is the future clear for Shorty, but also for Will Arvin.
The primary focus and goal for us is to make a really, really good bourbon. In addition to the bourbon, is making this a place where people can come and enjoy. And really, that was in the spirit of Colonel Taylor. So I think the place has a spirituality or a real presence that when you look at it and you see what all went into it and how grandiose it actually is, and what a ground zero for the history of bourbon in Kentucky this place was. You just get the feeling that there are a whole lot of spirits running around here, helping us, if you will, to bring this place back and bring it back to its glory.
After the break, we're headed for more four-wheeled fun at Wildcat Off-Road Park. And later, they've got an amazing 3-pot all-copper still that you have to see to believe. We're stopping by the Woodford Reserve Distillery to check it out.